Hi everyone, it's Rebecca from LincolnLewisCounty.com, and on today's episode of Hear All About It, we have Heidi Lehman. Welcome, Heidi. Heidi is a trustee of the Village of Casterland, here to talk about a very interesting topic. So, Heidi, I'm going to let you get started. What are you here to discuss today?
Well, thanks for having me, Rebecca.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. As a village trustee for the Village of Casterland, I started doing some historical digging and came across what is called the Casterland Journal. And it is basically a financial speculation based on geographical conjecture. These two aristocratic Frenchmen in 1793 are asked to come over to this area and basically scout out what they have bought sight unseen. And in the beginning, they have a prospectus, or basically a marketing campaign of what they're told this area looks like. And it turns out to be completely faulty. Lemon trees do not grow year-round here, and maple syrup is a very limited 1 month occupation that you can have in this area. And so as they're traversing this region for the first time, they are documenting and explaining and just really giving a beautiful narrative of what they're seeing for the first time. Whether that be an abundance of wildlife or the indigenous people groups that they're meeting along the banks of the Black River and the Beaver River. At one point, they meet a couple from the Mississauga tribe along the banks of Lake Ontario. And Mississauga is over by present-day Toronto.
Correct.
So these indigenous people had literally paddled across Lake Ontario. And I even reached out to the Mississauga people since then, and they actually have an oral tradition in their people group of a gentleman who was born along the banks of the Black River, but because it's so far from Toronto, they never thought to look in upstate New York for this
Absolutely.
Black River. So we are in the process of trying to figure out, once the border opens and everything, of when we can invite those people back over to explore where we know that their people were.
Okay, so these two Frenchmen that were given the opportunity to purchase this land, who gave them this opportunity?
So it dates back to Alexander Macomb, who purchased 4 million acres from the state of New York.
Okay.
But Macomb's in England. He doesn't want to live here. He's just a businessman.
Okay.
So he sells 660,000 acres to William Constable.
Okay.
Which we all know that story quite
Yes.
well. Constable is also in England. He has no desire to live here. His son eventually does. And he sees an opportunity to sell his tract number 5, it's called, to these 20 aristocratic families in Paris, who, as you can imagine, their heads are about to roll in the streets of Paris. And so they're looking for an asylum, a place where they can kind of get out of harm's way, and it looks really enticing to them to buy into this.
Given the description that they were given, it seemed enticing.
Property.
So you said that this tract of land went from Lyons Falls to Chaumont?
All the way over to Chaumont.
That's a very large piece of
it
land.
even talks about Wolf Island at one point.
Okay.
So it's a very immense piece of property that they purchased, and it's based on a map that ends up being faulty. It's a map by Saltier that was originally used to draw the boundary lines of these 6 tracts of land. And they get over here and understand that the Black River was to be their southern boundary.
Okay.
But the Black River, unbeknownst to them, does not flow due west. It goes north first and then heads west at DeFerriet and makes a very sharp turn. And they discover that they've basically been swindled because the map was incorrect when they bought their piece of property. And so they head down to Philadelphia to speak with President Thomas Jefferson to see if he can help them in any way, shape, or form. And coincidentally, there's a pandemic in Philadelphia as I read this book.
Right. So this is kind of where the twists and turns in the book begin. We should mention you discovered this book during the pandemic and loved it so much and was so intrigued by the local history that you actually contacted the author.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I reached out to Dr. John Gallucci, who is a professor, a French professor at the University of Colgate, and he took the initiative to translate the original French journal, which is in the Boston Museum of History. He took the initiative to translate that into English and then have it published. And that's where I stumbled across this book in the process. And so I reached out to him and just said, this is really fascinating to me. Can I meet you and can we discuss this further? And so that's how this presentation on July 28th came about.
Yes. So you went to meet with him,
Yeah.
was completely impressed, and he now has
So
agreed to come back to our area to do a presentation of the
To do a
book.
presentation, yeah. So at Laval Academy on
Okay.
July 28th at 7 p.m. It's free and open for the public
Excellent.
to attend, and we're just hoping to kind of increase the awareness of this story that these two gentlemen had in this area, and to help get their story out, because I think it's quite amazing
Sure.
that they came here in the wilderness and didn't have the amenities that we do today, and just how they described the area is so majestic and beautiful. At having grown up here, I didn't see it like that growing up.
Right, right.
But their perspective has really helped me understand the beauty of this area.
Absolutely. And you mentioned too that you purchased or were given 10 copies of the book, and you
Yes.
have dispersed them. So
Yep.
they're floating around the community, but anyone that's interested in the story can go to the local libraries and take this out. It's available also, you said, on Amazon.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So again, when is the presentation?
July 28th. It's
Okay.
a Thursday evening. It coincides with the River Fest. That is July 30th on that Saturday. So our thought was to have the historical evening on Thursday so that people could learn about the historical aspects of the Black River before they paddle down on Saturday.
That's perfect. A great tie-in. And again, you said this is a free event.
It is a free event.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Heidi, we really appreciate you coming in. This sounds like a
Sure.
fascinating story. I know I'm going to be getting a copy, and I hope others do. And you have a
Fantastic.
good turnout for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thank you.